here on CBS Sports HQ, where our NFL draft coverage continues. Day one in the book, so here's a look at the top players remaining as we get set for the second and third round of the NFL draft tonight. Some big names still on the board there. According to this, the best player remaining and available is defensive lineman out of Marshall, Mike Green. Behind him, Luther Burden. We've been talking about him for a long time. Actually, this guy's over here, one of his favorite players. That's Douzable and Damien Harris. I'm Jordan Giorgio. Katie Mock's also with you. So let's go ahead and go through and really marry these players with the best fit and best teams. And let's begin with that defensive lineman, Mike Green, out of Marshall. What makes sense here, Leger?
Yeah, the first pick in the second round to the Cleveland Browns. You look and see what they did in the first round. They traded back, got a lot of draft capital, and still were able to attack the trenches with Mason Graham. Well, defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, he likes to have an affinity of defensive linemen, right? They have Myles Garrett, they have Mason Graham, Malik Collins. Why not solidify that defensive line by adding a guy like Mike Green? 17.5 sacks, has a bevy of pass rush moves. And Damien, it's rare to see a guy that have the success that he has play with the effort that he plays with. And that's what they do on that Cleveland Browns defensive line. So it makes a lot of sense for him to be the first pick. And then you talk about value. This guy, a lot of people thought was going to go in the top 15. So imagine getting him in the second round, the value in regards to Mike Green and being able to attack quarterbacks from all different angles.
I agree with Leger. I think if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I'm taking Mike Green with the first pick of the second round, because think about pairing him with Myles Garrett. This is a guy who has an infinite amount of pass rush moves. He's got a Max Crosby-like motor, so he's going to play to the end of the whistle. When you've got somebody like Myles Garrett on the opposite side of you, there's going to be so much attention drawn to him. One thing about Mike Green is he can rush outside, but he also has the athletic ability to make moves inside. So when you've got 2-3 linemen dedicated to Myles Garrett on one side, then you just let Mike Green just do his thing. Just let him run the hump on the edge, beat the tackle inside. He's got all the tools. He's got all the resources. He's got the speed. He's got the explosiveness. He's got the tenacity. Pairing him with Myles Garrett would be imperative if I'm the Cleveland Browns.
Leger, why do you think he fell the second round?
So there was some stuff that was off the field that happened when he was in high school and then his freshman year, and I think a lot of teams were leery of potentially taking him and the backlash with that. So he actually was forthcoming about it. He talked about it at the Senior Bowl, went to all the meetings with the teams, but I guess a lot of teams still weren't comfortable taking him in the first round.
All right, let's talk about that three-star wideout out of Missouri, Luther Burden III. He did slip out of the first round. When I was looking at some mocks today, I see he's projected, some people think 35 to the Tennessee Titans, some people thinking 36 to the Jags, but you've got a different idea for him, Leash.
Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals. I think they need somebody that can command the field, like a commander and general of the middle of the field, because they have Marvin Harrison, who's typically their ex-receiver. Trey McBride is a tight end who actually led them in receptions and target. And I love Michael Wilson, but I think Luther Burden adds a different element in regards to yards after catch. Damien, I call him the slot fade assassin. Like, in the slot, it's hard for guys to cover him because he tracks the ball extremely well and he adjusts with the ball in the air. And you see the highlights right here. The first guy never brings him down. You see the comparison to Deebo Samuel, and that's where he went in the second round. So that's why I thought Luther Burden would be a second round pick, and this would be really good value for the Arizona Cardinals to give Kyler Murray another weapon.
Absolutely. I think that with his ability to run with the ball in his hands, I think a great fit for him would be the New England Patriots. And yes, yesterday, listen, man, I'm just calling a spade because listen, they spent the draft capital at the top of the first round yesterday to get Will Campbell to protect Drake May. Now, get him another offensive weapon. Somebody, I said this yesterday, there's so much talent and there's so much depth in this draft. You can wait, you can be a little reserved, and then you can find a playmaker that can elevate your team, whether it's on the offensive side or the defensive side of the ball. Now, speaking about New England, yes, they just signed Stephon Diggs. Phenomenal player when he's healthy. He's at the tail end of his career. We've got Pop Douglas, a young guy, a young rising star, but he just hasn't shown the ability to, with the ball in his hands, to get yards after the catch. So you add a guy like Luther Burden, the run game is already solidified. You've got Ramondre Stevenson, who is a phenomenal back. You've got your franchise quarterback, Drake May. You got a piece to protect him. Give him another weapon. I think you're all set on defense. You got your defensive line straightened out, had some additions at linebacker. Christian Gonzalez, we know, is going to be one of the top corners in the league. Give Drake May another weapon. Give him somebody that he can throw bubble screens to, short intermediate passes, and you can expect a big gain with the ball in Luther Burden's hands.
You guys make really good cases for both sides. It's hard. You make it make sense.
Yeah, to the Homer comment, yesterday I noticed you were wearing Bama Crimson. Today we're in Patriots Blue.
Listen.
calling him out.
I rep.
I love it.
I will say this. I did wear Jets green yesterday.
Yeah. We picked up on that. I love it. All right, let's go ahead and get to cornerback Will Johnson here. It seems like his medical history pushing him further and further down the draft board. So really no surprise that he's still available. But Damien, I'll come to you on this first. What makes sense for him here?
I think the New Orleans Saints would be a good fit for him, especially where they just lost Marshawn Lattimore, traded him to the Commanders. You have a hole at that corner spot in the secondary. I know there's a lot of focus on who's going to be the quarterback of the Saints. Is it going to be Derek Carr? Are they going to go and get somebody else? Well, the saying still holds true. Defense wins championships. So if I'm the New Orleans Saints, I'm going to go get a lockdown corner, which we know Will Johnson, he has the question marks, he has the concerns when it comes to his foot, his injuries. But whenever he's playing, he plays at a very high level. We said a stat last night. He has scored more touchdowns than he has allowed in his career in college. So if you can get him healthy, if you can get him with the strength and conditioning staff, the sports science staff, if you can get him healthy, keep him available on the field, I think the corner is a top priority for the Saints, and I think he'd be a perfect fit there.
Yeah, D. Harris, I like that, pick having him go to the Saints because they also lost Paulson Adebo in free agency as well. I think Mox will like where I have him going.
Come on now.
Bang, bang, Niner gang. I got him going to the 49ers. Let's not forget they lost Travarius Ward and Isaac Edom this offseason. This also allows them to put Lenore more in the slot where he really relishes as a slot corner, and then they have Ronaldo Green on the outside. You talked about it, right? If it wasn't for the injury concerns, this guy probably goes in the top 15. And Robert Saleh is back with the 49ers. They love to run that cover 3. This guy has some of the best instincts at corner. You talked about how he picks the ball off. I call him a game closer. That's what Will Johnson does. So I think he would fit right in with the 49ers.
And even though I said the Saints, I do love what you said about Robert Saleh's defense, cover 3, because what we know with Will Johnson's injury history, he needs to be primarily on a zone team. He doesn't need to be with a team that needs to play a lot of man coverage and try to run with a lot of receivers that have speed. Because again, we didn't see him run. We have not seen him run. We do not know his speed. We know he's got game speed. We know he can play, but can he run with the Tyreek Hills? Can he run with the A.J. Browns of the world, the Devontae Smiths, the guys that can take the top off? Get him in a place where he can play cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, sit in the zone, eyes on the quarterback, make plays on the ball.
I love that. That's some really good information there, too, that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of. I have to ask about somebody else, but I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to be a homer for 1 second. Did you like the Micah Williams pick?
I did.
Oh,
I would say this, and Saleh's my guy. I would have went Walter Nolan just because I know with his defensive line, anytime, and you know this, Mox, anytime they made a championship-type run, they had a guy in the middle that could wreck the defense, whether it's Eric Armstead or DeForest Buckner. Now, I love Micah Williams and his upside, and I think that's why they went with him.
Okay. All right, fine. So,
moving on.
Deflate my bubble here. All right, let's talk about Nick Emmanwori, the safety, infinite possibilities for him. It seemed like a lot of teams overlooked their need for a safety for other positions in that first round. I'll start with you, Damien. Where do you think he ends up, today or further down?
I think it could be today. I think it should be today. I'll be honest with you. I potentially, if I had a pick and I needed a safety in the first round, I would have taken this guy. I mean, he is a specimen. If you watched his combine, this guy jumped off of the charts. I mean, the physical build, the athleticism, the explosiveness. He is a day 1 starter in the National Football League, and he's a guy that people would be afraid of in the back end. Now, a good fit for him, I think there's a couple teams, but for some reason, maybe Haley will appreciate this. I think he'd be good with the Cowboys, because when I think of the Cowboys defense, I think up front, Micah Parsons. I think in the secondary, I think of Deron Bland, and I think of Trayvon Diggs. Well, who's the guy in the back? Who's the guy that keeps everything in front of him? You know what I mean? I think that a guy like this, somebody that can come down, fit in the run game, be physical at the point of attack, but also stay in the deep part of the field, keep everything in front of him, and make plays close on the football. I think Dallas would be a good fit for him.
I love how he's hyping up this guy, even after what he did to Ryan Williams in Alabama. Like, this is like really great stuff. Like, I'm clipping this off.
Listen, you know one thing about me. I'm going to call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
I'm going to call a spade a spade.
No, I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, I was on air yesterday with Damien. I called Emmanwori a cyborg because he is 6'3", 220 pounds, and he ran a 4.38 40. Like, that's rare trait. So you would think just from that he'd be a first-round pick. But the tape measures up to the trait. So was a little bit surprised he was still in the or is available day 2. So I am going to be a homer. I'm linking him to the New York Jets. Wow. And when you look at the roster, they have 3 free safeties. They need a in-the-box safety, and Emmanwori can fill that void, right? When you look at it, they have Tony Adams, who is a guy that signed a tender, who has kind of struggled at times at tackling. They also have Isaiah Oliver, who can moonlight as a slot corner, and they signed Andre Cisco, who is a middle field safety. So when you talk about Aaron Glenn, and you saw the defense that he had, and he finally got the DBs he needed in Detroit last year, and you saw that they led the league in takeaways. Emmanwori can be that guy in the box that can help and run support, but also cover tight ends one-on-one, and he can be an enforcer in the box. So I think the Jets make a lot of sense at pick 42, I believe they have today.
All right, lastly here, let's get to the name that's just been the talk of the town for weeks and weeks, and still today, because Shedeur Sanders was not taken. It's today the day. What makes sense for him, Damien?
Is today the day? That question, I'm not sure. I truly am not sure. Me and Emory sat up here today, and we have gotten together. We were talking upstairs. The NFL might be trying to send a message.
Wow.
Not just to Shedeur, but to Deion Sanders about this is not how we operate. You do not get to pick where you want to go. You do not get to think that you have the say-so as to where your son is going just because you are Deion Primetime Sanders. There's also a little bit of concern with the entourage that's always following. There's allegedly up to 30 people in Shedeur's entourage that follow him around. Do you want that in your locker rooms? Do you want that in the league? Because again, they're going out here producing content, this, that, and the third. Well, that's what the NFL is for. They got people to produce content. So I'm not sure. Are they sending a message potentially? How big of a message will they send? I'm not sure yet. Now, as far as where a good landing spot for him is, they got two teams. First of all, the Raiders. We see them, they have the best odds. The reason why I think the Raiders, because I think that he would benefit from being behind Geno Smith. Now, Geno is my pro comp for Shedeur anyways, but I think that he would benefit from learning from Geno not how to play football, not how to throw the football, not how to progress through reads and deliver the ball on time, but how to be a true professional. Geno Smith has been in the league for a very long time. Some people would say
he's open to it, though?
You know what's so funny? My wife said the exact same thing when I was talking to her for the show. Because Shedeur is a kid where we're not sure if he'd be open to that big brother figure in his life.
I think he views himself.
Well, exactly.
I don't think he sees himself as that.
If you're not open to that, that can create some more concern. That can create some more problems. Now, another team that I think would fit him well would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, just because I know that Mike Tomlin, the way that he runs a tight ship, the way that he has the culture in Pittsburgh, all of that stuff, that's not going to fly for Mike Tomlin. I know too much about Mike Tomlin. I've seen it. I've seen the way that he has constructed his teams. They don't let things like that fly. So now, with that being said, I'm not sure if I'm ready for Shedeur to go out and take the first snap and be a day one starter. That's why I lean back and forth between the Raiders and the Steelers, but I think those are two organizations he would benefit from.
Yeah, the Raiders are interesting because before the trade to Geno, those were the betting odds. The most favorable odds for him to go were to the Raiders, so that could make a lot of sense. Pittsburgh doesn't actually have a second-round pick because they gave up DK Metcalf, so that would mean he most likely is, falling to the third round or they traded up. I got a dark horse team, and I was actually surprised that they were on the betting favorites. It was the Los Angeles Rams at plus 1,200. And I say this because going into yesterday, the Rams didn't have a second-round pick, but they traded back and they gained one, and they gained a first-round pick next year as well. And we've been wondering, when will Matt Stafford walk away? A lot of people thought it could be this year. If you're Sean McVay, why not have a succession plan? You have Jimmy Garoppolo there right now, but you need a young quarterback to come in and groom. And if you look at the success that Sean McVay has had with quarterbacks, it hasn't been athletic quarterbacks. It's been quarterbacks that can go through the process of reading defenses, getting the ball out. Jared Goff wasn't a great athlete. Matt Stafford, he got him as an older player, wasn't a great athlete. And he led both of those guys to Super Bowls. So to me, the skill set shows that Shedeur Sanders would make a lot of sense at, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's pick 46 for the Los Angeles Rams in the second round.
But I wonder if that move to get a first-round pick next year means that they're eyeing next year's quarterback.
Don't do that.
I don't know. A name like Drew Aller,
I was going to say, I'm kind of with Jordan because this class next year is unbelievable.
Oh, we'll see.
It though?
Quick break. We're going to find out. We're going to talk about that actually in a little bit. Quick break for us, though. When we return, after using their first-round pick to address their defensive lineman need, what are the Steelers going to do now after still needing a quarterback? We discuss next.